Chapter 1b. In this chapter, we will look into the life stages, changes in society, historical attitudes, and finally, the sales and distribution channels. All of these elements we will explore in respect to protection cover. So here goes the trip down memory lane. Life stages. The first point to understand here is that a while ago, a few decades ago one could easily predict a person's protection needs by knowing a few things about them, such as their age. Life during the decades after the Second World War was linear in fashion. This means you live at home until a certain age, then you get married, you buy a house, you buy a car, you pump a few baby units, and then you retire. Divorces, second marriages, kids living with their parents until their 20s and 30s, for example, weren't popular at all. Life today is way more complex than it used to be, to say the least. Have a look at the result of this study here, of what life nowadays looks like compared to the previous model. The complexity is visible. Moving on. The changes in societal patterns. As we can see in the research results here, age is no longer a reliable predictor of life stages and therefore no longer useful in determining the protection needs of people. It was easy a while ago to look at a 30-year-old man during the 50s and 60s and say, there's a man who has a mortgage, car payments, a family to support, and be right most of the time. You can see how easy it is to recommend protection products if you could easily guess someone's circumstances like that. This is no longer the case now. Pause and have a read of this study findings right here. Number 3. Historical attitudes. Financial planning was unsurprisingly linear, as we said before. Insurance, first of all, was targeting men, since they used to be the breadwinners. So a man stops school at 16 or 18 and then enters a craft which morphs into a lifelong career, usually with the same employer. Marriage happened around the age of 23, 24 and the mortgage soon followed. The family expanded and so their financial protection needs. People used to stick with the same employer for years and years, seeing how difficult it was to transfer their pensions, which were mostly final salary benefits. And at the later stages of their life, retired people bought an endowment policy to fund one-time expenses like daughters' weddings or the cruise of a lifetime, or a life policy to leave a nest egg behind. The bottom line here is, this predictability gave rise to an ease of insurance products offering that is no longer present nowadays. And the last point is the sales and distribution. If you've shopped for anything lately, this might strike you as a superbly outdated concept. During the 50s onwards, the industrial sales force, yes, you know the famous SaaS company, Salesforce, it has derived its name from this age-old phenomenon. It was the main distribution method before the internet days. This means what a sales force is a horde of salespeople knocking on doors to offer insurance, have a chat about your life, keep up with your news, and collect the monthly or weekly premiums. Johnny the salesman would come knocking today, like every Tuesday of the week, except this time he hears the screams of a new baby. He gleefully congratulates you, and you have a chat about how it all went, the difficulties of it, yada yada. Then Johnny suggests that you take out a life policy so that if anything were to happen to you, the payout could cover the mortgage and leave your widow and kiddo enough cash to live without needing to work until at least the kiddo is 16-year-old and can fend for themselves. Mystified by this harrowing vision of the future, you agree to a quote for next Tuesday when Johnny comes back to collect the mortgage protection insurance premium. This example magnifies the old age maxim, insurance is sold rather than bought. Eventually, insurance companies found that employing thousands of people to collect minuscule premiums daily, weekly, monthly turned out to be excessively pricey over the long term, despite the closeness benefit it brought to the business. Nowadays, insurance can be purchased online without any advice with the touch of a screen. Speaking of advice, how many people know the benefit of writing a policy in trust as opposed to taking it just like that with them as the beneficiary? I'm only asking this to highlight the importance of speaking to a specialist to avoid buying too much, too little, or the wrong kind of cover.